I was diagnosed with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. So, inflammatory breast cancer is considered aggressive, rare. I think like 1 to 5%. It's the doom and gloom
No
diagnosis.
options. So basically, no chemo. They said no to you. No, no surgery, and call hospice. Basically, that was it.
Yeah, so they told me to, there was like a social worker. They was like, "Where's your family? Who did you come with?" I was like, I would always tell people it's me and the Lord. I'm just like, they was like, "Well, you're gonna have to have somebody to help you visit through this. Do you live by yourself?" They was like, because at some point you're not gonna be able to take care of yourself, and
Oh,
they're just talking, and I'm just sitting there like, and I'm not used to people. I'm very conscious about my words, and so I'm not used to like just somebody speaking stuff like that over me, but they were just convinced, and they said, well, hospice, and they were like, you can start for palliative care. Here's a social worker, and they were just like, you know, again, we're not telling you we can cure you because there is no cure for this. And they was like, and this is extremely aggressive. I was sitting waiting, to get an imaging, and there was a lady. She walked up to me and she said, "You don't belong here." And I looked at her and then she says, "Yeah, you don't belong here." And so then she said, I said, "Well, according to the doctor's diagnosis," and I said, "Stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer." And then I told her the doctor, and she said, "Oh, I'm familiar with that, doctor." And then she said, "Do you mind if I give you a hug?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So she gave me a hug and stood up. She gave me a hug and she whispered in my ear and she said, "Keep doing what God has you to do." She says, "But you don't belong here." And I was just like, "Whoa."
oh,
Yeah. And I didn't tell this lady my
oh.
business. So that was the last time I called and I said, I got to find somebody else. And I found somewhere closer. So I ended up going to Emory. So which is where I go now, to Emory. And so I get to Emory, and the doctor gets the records and everything from there. And they're just like, "You're not taking anything, you're not doing anything." So of course she comes in, and she comes in with her the fellow, the intern. I knew that's what, and I knew because it was rare, they wanted to do research. Again, very insensitive. They were more concerned about their research, and so the young lady just walked in. The fellow walked in, and she had her papers and everything. And I just said, she didn't introduce herself, and I said, "I think I know why you're here." She says, "Oh, I want to sign you up for and I said, "You're going to be very disappointed." And I said, I want to help people. I said, "But if it's taking all those pills and what you just said, what the provider just said," I said, "I'm not doing it." So she just did, and she says, "Do you understand what?" She said, "Do you understand?" She said, "You're probably going to be in a wheelchair." She said, and so many months. And she was just like, "Do you understand this diagnosis?" And she was just like, really doom and gloom. And so she said the chart showed, she's like, your thyroid. She said you could possibly have cancer in your thyroid. She said in your lungs. And she was like, "Looks like something going on with your liver." And so she said, "We're going to have to," I said, "do
Wow.
testing on that." And I said, "Well, what does that entail?" I was thinking, I'll do a blood test. But she said, "No, we have to do a needle biopsy." And so then she would just, sign, on there typing up everything. And so I said, "Okay, I'm going to stop you." And I said, "I'm going to ask you to do this." I said, "I don't want to hear anything more about," I said, "because just the stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer is enough." I said, "So if you're telling me that I'm not going to make it on that," I said, "why would I do all these other tests and have you stick a needle in my lungs and in my thyroid?"
Good for
I said, "I'm not doing it." And I said, "I'm going to ask you moving forward to not say, I'm going to be very respectful." I said, "But I'm going to ask you to not say your cancer." I said, "Because I don't want cancer." When I would feel like a fear would come over me, I would just say, "I do not have a spirit of fear." I said, "God did not give me this." I said, "So you saying all of this," I said, "I understand you're doing your job. I respect that. Like I said, I work with providers." I said, I respect all that." I said, "But I do not receive that." I said, "This
wow.
is not God."
I mean,
And so,
guys, this is so powerful because the mindset is what I've been talking about for 2 years. that if a doctor says to you, you have stage 4 cancer, and they say you have 3 months to live, if you believe that, that's exactly what's going to happen. That will be your outcome. She chose to not be the cancer, because all cancer really is our body trying to repair itself. And you knew that by this point. So I mean, how powerful. Leaning on
Yes,
God, trusting every one of his words and standing on that.
right. So it was like I say, even though talking and I'm telling you exactly what happened,
Wow.
I do know that it was by the grace of
Yeah.
God. You know what I'm saying? It was the grace and
You
mercy of
started with
God.
your faith, then you started with nutrition. Go
Right.
ahead and share that.
So I started watching also Chris beat cancer. It was just like I just started searching. I started,
Good.
I was just like, we say we perish for lack of knowledge. Stand on the word, and I would listen to like your lives. I would listen to Chris beat cancer. So I put it together like a program, and it was just like Sephora fame,
So for those
broccoli sprout.
who would like to know her protocol, please grab a pen and paper right now, because now she's going to share. So she turned down, well, there was no offer to do chemo or surgery
Yeah,
because this was stage 4 inflammatory and breast cancer. So, okay,
right.
so good.
So
So change your diet.
Right. And so I started going outside every day. I stayed like near a little park. And so it was just like, again, in my spirit, you work from home, but you, on your lunch break, go outside because the park is like 5 minutes away.
Good.
Take your shoes off and walk
Ground.
around, and I was just like, okay, I said, I've heard of this. This is grounding. So I did that. And I would just sit out in the sun. I would just meditate, but I would constantly speak over myself. And I would say, because it says, a man thinketh, so is he. You should have whatsoever you say. And so I was like, I'm going to say what God says, because he says his word will not return to him void. So if I keep saying what he says, he's not a liar. He says, by his stripes, I'm healed, whether I
Woo!
feel it. It doesn't matter if I feel it or not. Because there were days that I just felt like, that's it. That's it, Jesus. It's, like I said, I've taken a lot of things, and some of the things have changed. And I believe like God has taken me through phases, but I've started off and I was taking like Sephora fame,
Okay.
the broccoli sprouts. Uh, I tried turkey tails for a minute, but I stopped that. Don't ask me why. It just was not saying it was good or bad. It just was not necessarily in my spirit. And then there's a health food store, again, not too far from me, which was right across from. God is so good that I think about how the store was like literally like just a walk away from the health food store, was a store where you can get fresh organic juice.
No,
The rule that I used was like, if it if it's processed in a box or whatever, not doing it.
that's a no.
Yeah,
Good
that's a no.
whole food. Yes. Okay. So whole food.
Yeah, so I was, yeah, doing the Whole Foods, and then I took another supplement called IP6, with, I think it's the myo-inositol, if I'm saying it correctly. I've stopped taking that. I got so many supplements, but I was taking IP6. I was taking Paul Diarco. I was
Oh,
taking
dear. Our
um
fan of
um yeah, sweet wormwood, which is what is, I think is artemisinin, if I'm pronouncing it correct, but it's sweet
because
wormwood.
as we know,
Um,
root cause is a pathogen overgrowth. So you were dealing with Pau d'Arco and wormwood. Okay, did you ever do the black walnut? Did you ever do a parasite cleanse, or you just use this combination of herbals to address the
so
parasites?
so again, yeah, I just use like a combination, and so then I maybe like 6 months ago I started doing the black walnut,
Good.
uh and, and the cloves. It comes in a the bottle now, and it's like three in
Yeah.
one, and it's liquid, a little tincture.
Good.
And so I did that. I still do that. I still do that.
Good.
So one of the things that remained consistent is that I always took uh, some type of something for parasite cleanse. I was taking oregano oil, like the real deal oregano oil,
Good.
black seed oil. I was taking the black seed oil.
Good.
I kind of heard about the apricot seeds, the B17, but I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, and so finally I was sitting in my car one day and I said, Lord, again, you're not saying it's a no. And I said, I'm just gonna, I took it. And so I've been taking the
Good.
apricot seeds as well. Yeah, so that was huge, that was huge. But I've been also the juicing. I ended up getting one of those big juicers. But honestly, I go to probably more so to the little place where I go to get the raw, the juices, the fresh organic juices. I go there, and then I just start doing teas, and that's where I would go, where I would do the loose leaf teas, and that's what I do. I do a lot of the
And you
green teas.
talk about tea all the time. We have
Yeah,
to make sure it's God gave us everything that we need for our nutrition and our healing,
yeah.
and you did it right.
I mean, she was, what are you doing? And even though I would go to the oncologist, I would go to her like every 3 months. And like I said, because I hated going there, and I've gotten a little better, but because I, you know, tell her, look, these are deterring me. And she was, I mean, she was, what are you doing? Do you understand what you're doing? And she started crying, like the surgeon who started crying. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So she put in my chart, my patient chart. Patient is believing God and nutrition
Good.
for healing. Advise
Okay.
patient that there's no cure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She documented as well as the other doctor. He said the
Good.
same thing. Like they kind of wrote me off as like, cuckoo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and she kept saying your numbers are not going to go, your markers are not going to go down. And so she went on vacation, and while she was on vacation, I had an appointment, and um, I can't remember. There was another different provider who stood in for her, but my numbers had went down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what they
Yes.
say.
And so when she came, oh, she didn't want to. She didn't want to talk about it. Matter of fact, she hadn't even looked at my chart. That's how much she kind of dismissed me. It's like,
I have
and then I would look at the blood work, and I would see that it said like all this stuff was going on with my liver. So I was like dandelion. I started taking. I was like, I'm gonna take dandelion. I'm gonna take. I started again listening to lives like this,
yes.
listening to other people's wonderful testimony,
Yes.
researching. Got tons of books. And I was just like dandelion. So after so many months, it said, guess what? Liver, normal, none of that. And lymph nodes, they was like normal, but the doctor, she didn't say anything. So in October of this year, I had a CAT scan, and so she just said her summary was just like maybe a couple of sentences that it's stable. Which now remember before she was telling me, she kept saying to me, I mean, she was just thoroughly annoyed, and she was like, "It's not gonna, it's gonna be too late for you." She was like, "Do you understand?" She's like, "But if you're fine with dying," this is what she said to me. She said, "If you're fine," she said, "with dying," and she said, "because of your faith."
It cut her out now.
Yeah, so she said, "If you're fine with dying," she said, "since you believe God and nutrition is going to do this for you," she said, "then I'm fine with it." She said, "I'll allow you to come and do blood work and do CAT scans." And she was like, "But if you don't take the inhibitors," it's just like, "you're going to wait till it's too late." And she was like, "You're not," she kept saying, "you're not, it's not going to go down." She said, like, "You're not going to heal yourself." She was like, "It's not going to happen." She was just like, "I'm just afraid." And I told her, I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I will not hold it against you." I said, "I'm trusting God." I said, "You just allow me to come in here and do the blood work and do the scans," because I kept looking at the blood work and I kept seeing. That's what I was learning about. I think it's let's see what your numbers were. The was it the neutrophils or whatever, like if you had
Yeah.
parasites. And so that's why I just kept taking that. I just kept doing that, and I just kept just doing each day like I felt like I was led to do. And so And again, like I said, here I
Here
am now.
you
You
are.
know,
This is so amazing.
yeah.
Every,
So
I mean, they literally wrote you off. That's what
yeah,
happened. Thank goodness you listened to God and you were your own advocate because you're here now to not only share what your experience was, but this your story will save lives. The world really needs to hear your story.